how do you feel your camp, your preseason went in that regard?
I think we're putting in some slightly different stuff offensively and defensively, so I think the games were a good chance to get some practice at them. A lot of different sets offensively that I'm in a lot of them, so really just working on making different reads, different shots to get out of these actions. Not just robotically running the plays that we just put in, but making good reads and good communication with. A lot of times it's Drew or Giannis, Brooke that I'm working with. So just figuring different stuff out and getting some game reps with this stuff.
I know we talked about how you had so many of the same guys coming back this year. Did changes and things around on offense and defense help keep it kind of fresh during the preseason?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't think freshness was really needed, but we've got some good stuff in, and I think it's going to make our team better for the season.
Bud's talked about prioritizing the three-point shot a little more defensively to shut that down. How much of an adjustment has that been for you during this preseason? Was that something when were you kind of aware that this priority was going to happen?
First day of camp, really.
It wasn't before, okay.
No, yeah, first day of camp. It's a tiny adjustment. It's nothing crazy. It's just slightly different rotations, positioning on help side, all that stuff. It's, we're not making huge adjustments by any means. It's just slight tweaks to our positioning defensively.
What does year two might it mean for you looking ahead? Because last year for a while it was sort of adjusting to the space that you had or where your teammates wanted you to be. Now that you've got a whole season, an off season of whatever it may be, what can that mean for you?
It's really just taking everything up another level. I know the spots that I'm going to be in the majority of the time. I know the reads I'm going to get, the passes I'm going to get. So it's taking stuff up to a higher level with movement off the ball, finding those little pockets, seams, slashing every now and then, continuing to work the dunker better. A lot of this stuff, playing with a guy like Giannis, playing in the dunker, playing off of that much space, that many closeouts, being guarded a different way, all that stuff was new. So having another year should allow me to make some better reads out of that. And I'm definitely a lot more comfortable. I can already feel it. Just going away and then coming back to practice, it doesn't feel like I'm learning something new. It feels like something I'm comfortable doing.
I know when Giannis has the ball, you guys are going to push and transition. One thing Charles mentioned the other night is sometimes when Bobby or somebody else pushes, maybe the pace isn't quite as quick because everyone's not as used to something like that. How do you guys try to keep pace in mind?
Well, I think we first focus on our running habits, so after makes, but especially after misses, we all want to fill our spots first because we want to look to attack first and look to get out in that space. Now, a lot of times when Giannis has the ball, he's really good in transition, really good in space, so a lot of times it's going to lead to a transition bucket. When other guys are bringing the ball at the court, it's not going to be as often as Giannis, so we still want to fill and get to those spaces, but we have those secondary actions we can go to where we don't have to completely pull it out and call a play, but we know stuff that we can go to, different handoff screens, just different actions off the ball and on the ball.
You'd played against Giannis a couple times a year up until last season. What's the biggest thing you kind of learned about him as a teammate, just having him as a teammate for this last season?
He's a good leader. He leads by example a lot of the times. He's getting his work in. He wants us to be great as a team. He wants himself to be great as a player. He's very unselfish as a leader and as a player. I could keep going on. I'm not going to say too many good things about him, though.
What you mentioned building off last year. What can you take from Chicago and Boston going into this year with Chris being out? 'Cause I'm guessing that was a little different than the regular season games that Chris was out. You know what I mean? Especially if teams have a book, so to speak. How have you maybe looked at those series specifically to what the first however many weeks maybe?
Yeah, I mean, the playoff series are more physical, more detail oriented. I mean, by game 2, they know every single thing we're going to run, when we're going to run it. They know everything. So, it's like it's like playing against your the guys in practice, and you call the play out, and they know exactly what you're going to do. So they're already ready to be physical, ready for the play to come. I mean, that's what it is in the playoffs. So. I think for me, it's just finding different reads. A lot of the actions that we were in, Boston switches a lot of their screens, so different reads, different plays to make against switching. A lot of times in the Boston series specifically, they weren't helping off, they weren't leaving. So, finding angles to move, finding a time to slash if the guy turns the back of his head. Getting into more actions with Giannis or the other bigs to get downhill and get into that two-man game. And there's all sorts of different stuff to work on, but it's mostly just being able to adapt and play against different coverages. Yeah.
What do you do in the regular season to prepare for it? Like, I know what a playoff defense looks like. I don't see it very often during the regular season. Like, there's just that level of intensity. Are there things that you can work on in regular season games that are gonna simulate that in some way or prepare you for that?
You're not gonna match like Game 7 against Boston physicality in your off-season workouts, but it's more just the actions that you go through. At the end of the day, like, you don't want to force things as an offensive player, right? You want to have different stuff that you can go to, so you can feel comfortable getting to your move, your shot, whatever you want to get to, no matter what the defense is throwing at you. So when somebody is up in you, they're going to go over the screen or they're going to shoot under last second. Like, what are your reads then? If they're going to red, what are your reads then? Like, those are all things you can work on in an open gym. But in terms of the physicality and how intense the game is, like, you're not going to get that at all. Yeah.